right, welcome in. Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. We're getting after or going back to our real roots. 5 years ago, 4.5 years, 5 years ago, a true morning brew, coffee brewing, and I'm actually using the old school mug. I know you're not a hot coffee guy. Have you had your cold coffee yet today, Razor?
I just went to grab it and starting to partake as well. Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Caffeinated. Need it after a somewhat late last night. It wasn't brutally late.
Yeah,
it was a late night. Mountain time hockey. It was not pretty time hockey for either squad. Boston Bruins lose in overtime to the Calgary Flames. They're now 0-1-1 since the break. We spoke with you last Saturday, right? Yes, Saturday, and on EEI. That was before the Buffalo game. And then the Bruins went in there and they got buffaloed. You know, Buffalo. What world are we living in, Razor? 9 in a row now. Is it finally time for the Buffalo Sabres? Is it finally time?
We're getting there. And the thing is, the problem is they're not even in the playoffs solidly yet. That's what's crazy in the Eastern Conference, and you just can't make up. Everyone's getting points all the time, and but you have to believe a little bit. I guess we could wait till the new year's officially here, and let's see if they do it in January.
Boy, I'll tell you what, they're looking good doing it, but this is not a Buffalo Sabres show. Although the Bruins again did just play them recently. Our morning brew with Jaffe and Razor, brought to you by Fazenda. You know, let's talk about our Fazenda people real quick while we got a moment. FazendaCoffee.com/morning brew. Razor's got the baseball hat on, and if you're not watching on YouTube, and I've got the coffee. It is good. I went with an espresso, different roast. I gotta tell you what, pretty damn good today. Enjoying it. Yeah. So Fazenda Coffee. Check out FazendaCoffee.com/morning brew. All right. So where do we go? Because it was not a real feel-good game last night. To go through the game, and if people didn't see it, the Bruins were okay at times. They were more connected at times, but they couldn't score, Razor. In Calgary, therefore neither could Calgary. Calgary had 5 power plays, and that's, I know what we're going to get to. I know it's too many penalties. So how do we attack this one? Because while there's a little bit of time left for this team, for me, the eye test is starting to become harder and harder to say, I think it's all going to be all right in the end. And I'm not jumping off anything right here. I'm just looking at it and I'm saying they've mixed up lines. They've changed pairs. They've gotten a couple guys back. We'll talk about Aspero. Where are we at, Razor? They're still doing too many of the similar things, in my opinion.
Yeah, they are. But it is way to, like, we can then schedule it. They're not even halfway. So there's still 40 plus games left. So there's so much that's going to happen and go on. But the here, I really wanted to hear what Marco said about last night's game. And I just got the snippet from Brick. That's all we really get late night in Calgary. And I thought, he didn't sound frustrated after that game. I thought he sounded like they did good things. I think he's happy that they only gave up 1 goal in regulation. They talked about Calgary being a good team at home. So I think he's trying to keep things positive. Even though they only got 1 point out of these first 2 games out of the break. I think what he saw from Calgary is probably, we underestimated Calgary. I think he thought they were playing better than what I thought they were, especially on home ice. So I think that they just want to get back to these 2-1 games and as quick as they possibly can, and then flip it from there. But it wasn't pretty last night. I think that's a good thing. I think that's the reality of the Bruins. We might be in the stage of, I think where we are is we're back to the start of the season where we're like, okay, this is going to be a grind for these guys. This is how are they going to get through January? We thought the whole season, but it turned out they scored 7 goals a game for the first 35 games of the season. Now I think we are finally in the spot where it's okay. Can they win enough games in January? 3-2, 2-1. And right now, it doesn't look like it. But unfortunately, the big guys have both gone into a bit of a slump right now, and that's really caused this team some distress. The power play's held on; they're still 5th in the league, but you can see 5-on-5 that Geeky and David are getting a lot of attention, and they're trying to get them away from that attention, but it's just really hard right now.
This is to your point about the unexpected scoring earlier. This is kind of what we thought they were going to be now, in theory, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I guess that goes all the way back to, I think that's what Marco Sturm sees as well. I think he knows this is what they are, and this is what he thought they were going to be, and he wants them to get to their details ASAP so they can pull a few of these out.
They're 1-5-2 in their last 8, and that includes the loss at Mini back on December 14th. I know it was the end of what we called, quote unquote, a solid road trip, but it's still a loss. So 1 win in their last 8 games. They've been outscored 33-17. So they're at 2 goals a game in that time, which isn't going to win you a ton of games in the National Hockey League. Got to bump that to about 2.5, right? Want to get to there. The penalties, and at the time of the penalties that they've been taking, have been bad, really, really bad. And we'll discuss on what happened in Calgary. And you made the point too during Nesson's pregame. It feels like 10 days ago, but last night, about how that in the Buffalo game, it felt like last year, but those rapid fire, those 3 goals in succession, right? In the second period, felt like last year, the boom, 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 like that wasn't a good feeling, because it kind of like they're going back to where they were. And we all knew that last year, and that wasn't acceptable. The power play, to your point, 5 for 26. So they're still clicking there. Penalty kill, though, in those 8 games, Razor has given up 10 in 34 opportunities. Again, you just can't go there and be successful. So I'm going to beat the dead horse. How the hell do we get them to stop taking so many penalties? I mean, tripping and hooking, I believe, have been the 2 biggest penalties in the last couple of weeks. Tripping and high stick, then, yeah. The tripping, for sure, I know leads the way. It's either like 7 or 8 in this last, issue of winning games. It's ridiculous, and it's oftentimes similar players. So what do you do? You've been there. I haven't been there at the NHL level, but coaches can get pissed. Coaches can talk about ice time, but I don't know what they can do anymore. It just feels like, holy shit, like enough is enough.
Yeah, and we have addressed this numerous times, and they've addressed it, and they talk about it, but it just has to be, it just has to be a mandate where, Mark Kastelik knows it last night. He knows he took the first one, but you can't take 2. You, as a player, as a guy who plays 12 minutes a night, you just can't take 2. Like that's going to be on the tape. That's going to be addressed. That's going to be talked about. Aspro gets back in the lineup. He's been so great for them this season. But that, again, that's going to be, he knows, but you also have to address it like that. There's 2 seconds left. You're in the corner. You're in a battle. Like you don't have to win that battle.
If you didn't get a chance to watch the game, what Razor's, referring to is right near literally the end of the game. There was a corner battle, Blake Coleman, right?
Yeah.
And Astro turns and yeah, he got his stick into the chin area. I do feel like Coleman gave it a good whiplash back, but it doesn't matter. It hit him in the face regardless. Yeah. And by the letter of the law, it's a clear penalty. And you're starting overtime shorthanded, the full 5 minute with a 2-minute minor, and it just can't happen there. Sorry, continue.
No, like it's basically, it comes down like you can talk about moving your feet, and you can talk about getting in better position. You can talk about all these things, but at the end of the day, you just can't do it. Like you just can't. If the message is, if we want to win hockey games, then we can't take penalties, guys. Like that, it's virtually that simple. And if you are going to do that, then we're going to lose, and then there's a waterfall of bad things that happen if we lose. But it starts right here. Like, you cannot take a penalty. We're going into Edmonton. We cannot take a penalty. Flat out. We'll start there. And we'll deal. There's going to be penalties, but we're going to start out by saying we're not taking any. And then we'll kind of work backwards into the ones we take and see if they're worthy or not. But we're not going to take any. That has to be the meeting on Thursday morning. That has to be the meeting before the game against Edmonton. Is we are staying out of the box. We are going to contain. We don't need to forecheck. Like whatever these scenarios are, these little scenarios in your head, you cannot take a penalty. That's flat out. You can't take a hooking penalty on an offside play in the third period, Hampus Lindholm. You cannot take a hooking call in the neutral zone, Mark Kaslick. You cannot take a trip in the offensive zone, Mark Kaslick. Like, you can't.
And you have to find that fine line. This is the harder part of not being too cautious, not being you cannot play, particularly the Edmonton Oilers, excuse me, and keeping your stick, meaning just being so afraid to take a penalty that you're actually giving them too much ice. Mm-hmm. So it's finding this middle ground of movement, of closure. I do think some of it has to do with moving the feet. I know it sounds so cliche, but if you just move your feet, you take ice, sometimes it does take away the space. But too many, and the players you bring up, in particular Hampus lately, it's been so significant that
he's a penalty killer.
And so is Kastelik. And so last night in Calgary, Kastelik is one of your top 6 guys now in the PK.
Oh, that's right.
And then he's taken that. So it really impacted guys' minutes last night too. A guy like Asimont. Now he's a fourth line guy in this game. He played just 6 minutes. And still no Tanner Jeannot. And he's a penalty killer. Yep. So now we're seeing a lot of different things. And hopefully a guy like Tanner, who is on the trip, by the way, can get back at it. If he can't play tomorrow night in Edmonton, there's still now time, good amounts, 2 days off between each game as the team heads to Van and then Seattle to finish up the trip. Hopefully for him to come back. They're calling it an oblique, I believe, that he's out with. So, I mean, there's also, that's one of the things, it's like, you're going to make a mistake here or there, Razor. You can speak to this even better being a goalie. Like, you're going to get in front of your goalie every once in a while. You're going to do something that's going to perturb, hey, if you're going to be there, block it, everything. But it ends up really taking a bad penalty kind of pisses off the entire team.
Mm-hmm.
It does. That's the other thing. It's a mindset thing. And it's after a while, and I got to assume we're at this level behind closed doors. And we've heard David earlier in the year talk about, we actually heard him in the room giving it to the team much earlier when the team was going through bad penalties about that. But this is the type of thing that really pisses off teammates and says, enough of this effing stuff. It's getting almost selfish and careless and everything. And it can create a different energy that you do not want in that locker room.
Yeah, exactly. And just quickly before I get to that one, because it is a huge one. It really is a huge one. Is that, and I talked about this in the post game because it's important to talk about. This isn't about these individual ones last night. This isn't about Aspero, Kastelik, Lindholm. This is the team thing. This has been happening for a month now, and it's everybody. It's every single person's taken a bad penalty this month, and what happens is when it happens in a night like last night, it gets really emphasized on those players, but it really is everybody. But to that point, David Pastrnak not touching the ice in an NHL overtime makes his head explode.
Right.
Absolutely makes his head explode when he has to walk down that tunnel in the shitty Calgary Saddle Dome, and he didn't even step foot in an overtime game to be able to make a difference. Yeah, he's pissed. He's full on bullshit. And it's not directly at Aspero, but it's at everybody that, hey, enough is enough with this stuff. And Morgan Geekie doesn't get an opportunity. Like, this is absolutely is driving everybody crazy. Last night, take a penalty. David Pastrnak had one shift in the first 7 minutes of the game last night. So how's he getting into the game when he's doing it? So yes, it is absolutely affecting the top end guys. So at the same time, I'm saying that those guys are in a slump and they're having a tough go of it. They're also being very, very much affected by the amount of penalties this team's taking and like you said at the start, the time of them. They're being taken out of important parts of the game to really impact the game because of these shitty penalties.
Yeah. We expect them to we being the general public, us included, just to get going right away, no matter what. These guys need rhythm. They need, continuity. They want to giddy and go. and they haven't been able to. With that said, and we'll get to that in a minute, 88, 39, you need more. You just, if you're going to be successful, you're going to need more. Question for you. Is it time for 88 to start killing penalties? Is it time for a little bit of that? We've seen this with other high-end players. Connor McDavid goes at times killing more this year. Not always, but he's doing it more. We saw the explosive, the rocket ship that is McDavid go on a breakaway and score, shorty, right? At TD Garden. We've seen other superstars kill penalties too. Maybe not your top 2, maybe even not your top 4, but does it become part of your top 6 to where, you don't want to wear them out. But on the other hand, penalty kill keeps you in the game mentally more than almost anything. I think, because it is an endorphin rush and the synapses are firing. Secondly, if you put him out there near the end of the PK, he has an opportunity perhaps to catch tired penalty power play guys. And third, just in general, it keeps you in the game, of the flow of the game more. Is there a negative that you're going to tell me? Like, what would be the biggest negative to try it, except for the fact he might not be very good at it for a while?
Well, I was just going to say, like, so not everybody gets endorphins from killing penalties. So there's a ton of guys that get endorphins from power play and scoring goals and not stopping. And I think David might be one of those guys. But it's something I hadn't thought about it at all. The fact that the reality is it would be easy for him. He's one of the smartest players in the world. He'd figure it out. Like, it would be super easy for him to do so. And the fact that the Bruins have been getting smoked in the last 25 seconds of these kills, maybe he is a better option at that point than some other guys. And then maybe he is an option to go offensively. That's another way to get him another minute of ice time every period through that time. So I hadn't thought about it. It shouldn't be a problem. And I'd be curious if they could pick and choose or find the right spot for him to get out there and do that. It'd be interesting to see that.
It's something that I wouldn't hesitate just to ask Marco, when he's back in town, one of these conversations about, how would you see that? How would you feel about that? And it might not be pretty early on. It might not be. There's routes that you take. You have to be willing to block some shots. There might be a little bit of a fear factor in that, that's how players get injured. But players can get injured anytime out there. I understand there's a different mentality. I get it. But I just thought about it. I was thinking about it last night and then figured I'd ask you today. Something that maybe to be considered. Sometimes they say, well, you don't want to tire him out for all the 5-on-5 stuff. And then later in the power play, David could be 22-minute a game guy.
David could skate for 30 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This might be a tough one. What do we want to call our spark of the week? Because, the last couple of games, sparkshockey.com, by the way, go visit that, have been tough. Have been tough. Where do we go with it?
Well, we did we got lucky on Saturday morning to do the fights in Montreal, but the last 2 games wasn't much of a spark.
No, there haven't been. So, what we're going to say? We're not going to say there's been a spark of the game. I'll tell you what, my kid yesterday didn't take care of his skates at home before. Because, he's just a 15-year-old who, thinks he has his own personal equipment manager.
Yeah.
And then he goes out to skate with a young Mason Raycroft. Yeah. Says the skates aren't right. I said, well, that's your issue, man, not mine. I'm out here. So he goes to the guy who runs the rink, who happens to have a Sparks there. Does his skates in about 5 minutes, comes back on the ice, and he's all sparked up. So go visit Sparks Hockey. That was the spark.
That was a spark
of the day. Honestly, hey, my skates aren't. Well, I don't care.
As everyone's walking on the ice, that was
right. As everybody's coming on the ice, Jake's already out there. Well, take care of your skates. You just figured this out. I forgot. Oh, I'm sorry. Life lesson 101. We liked the penalty kill last night against Calgary. How much of it had to do with Calgary's 32nd ranked power play, and how much had to do with the Bruins PK? I really thought their second decision, they're closing on the puck, and then their second decision, anticipation, I thought was excellent. And I don't want to take anything away from them. Calgary does not have a great power play, but the PK has been struggling lately. Razor, it has. So I guess I'll try and find a very small positive from the game. I know they got a point, but they had to have two. And by the way, they had a great shorthanded chance in overtime.
Oh, yeah.
When Pavel Zacha went in on a pretty much a breakaway, right? He elects to shoot blocker side, and Wolf made the save. And then I don't think the rebound opportunity to Nikita Zadorov, I don't know if it ever hit the net. I don't know if it did, if it ever got back on Dustin Wolf.
No, it seemed like a double pump from Zadorov. And yeah, it was it felt like that really would have been the spark, right, for the team. Like, it felt like if you get that, man, that just sparks the whole road trip. Shorthanded on the road, life's great. The PK with listen, I don't think they're gonna keep Edmonton from getting a shot on goal on the power play 2 nights from now. But at the end of the day, they kept an NHL, like, they gave up 1 shot in the third period and they took 2 penalties. So that was really good stuff, because it's high leverage position, 1 on game, 2 kills in the third on visiting ice. And it hasn't been good, so you got to give it some flowers when it does a good job, and it did a much better job 5-on-4 the other night. And that, again, you take the positives out of the fact that even though it was a 32nd, there's still guys that can score goals out there, and they did a good job of, like you said, outworking them. That's the key. They outworked them, and they had great clears. That's what they need to be.
Connor Zary does end up getting credit for the goal. They'd given it to him, then they gave it back to Sharon Govich. But I think Zary did touch it, but so did Hampus Lindholm when he went to swat it. And it added to like a reverse spin to go by Jeremy Swayman. It was not what you would call a beautifully executed power play goal, but it was still a power play goal in overtime for the Calgary Flames. That rink that you bring up, you played in there numerous times. In a year or so, year and a half, there's going to be a new building there. Did you enjoy playing there? It is not a fancy rink. It is it's kind of bare bones now. They're finally getting a new building. It took me years for the politicians to figure it out.
Yeah, shocker, Canadian politics. No, it's I won't miss that place at all. No, like, it's not like an Original Six building. It's more along the lines of a Igloo in Pittsburgh building, where it's like, get this thing out, get rid of it, send it to the moon. It doesn't have any character. Well, the Saddle Dome, I guess, has more character than the Igloo did, but then the amenities, the dressing room, everything's like just kind of run down and dumpy, not historic. Like, you don't feel like when you walk into the Saddle Dome, you don't feel historic or feel like good about it like you would have in the old Boston Garden, even though everything stunk in there. This one, it just kind of stinks. So I never really liked it. It's a decent place to sit and watch a game, I guess. Like, the crowd's
not big.
intimate.
The footprint's not big, so you're close.
Yeah. And it goes way up and the whole thing. But no, I never had any fond memories or any, like, they weren't that good when I was with Vancouver and we had a big rivalry with them, but never any real big games, meaningful games.
So you had the Saddle Dome, which was a big deal, by the way, in the '84 Olympics when it was built for that. That was its shining moment, right? And it was obviously appropriate given the Calgary Stampede and the cowboy attitude image out there. Not even image, it's real. And I guess at that point, like any new building at that point, it was cool. It was fresh, whatever. But yeah, it did get old quickly in many ways. You had the Igloo you brought up, which, I'm with you. I never really thought it was unbelievable, except for the fact that you knew Mario Lemieux.
Correct. That's why I was just going to go there. The Igloo was amazing because of Jaromir Jagr and Mario Lemieux and Ron Francis and Paul Cott, like, because of the team. It wasn't the building in any way.
Same thing with the Islanders, with the Coliseum. You want to talk about a dump? That may have been the worst building for a visiting team, the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yet players did like playing there because it felt like a little bandbox, and everybody was right on top of you. We touched on this off air last night. Some of these lower ceiling buildings, like the old arenas that you brought up, the Garden, the Odd. Now those were smaller ice surfaces too, but some of these lower ceiling buildings sometimes make you feel like players are on top of you more. I brought up the example of when, and this is not the same, and I'm not saying it is as the NHL, we'd go in and play Ferris State, and it was like 2,200, they said, but the ceiling felt like, like right on top. It felt like even though the rink was 200 by 85, you couldn't go anywhere. It felt like the player was on top of you. Yeah, at all times. Could have been that I was slow. Let's not let that. But that's just the way it felt. But meanwhile, it was a home ice advantage. This home has been, I guess, a home ice advantage this year for Calgary. They're pretty good at home. They haven't been good on the road though.
Yeah, 9-1-1 now in their last 11. It's I think there's also elevation there. Everyone always talks about Colorado elevation.
Yep.
Elevation. Calgary has the same elevation as Calgary or as Colorado does. You're way up there, and you're not quite Banff up there, but you're way up there. So the elevation's always an issue. The dry air, the lack of humidity, it hurts your lungs, all that kind of stuff. That happens in Calgary as well. I think it gets overlooked sometimes. So that can also help them. But I think at the end of the day, it's just a place that only a mother can love. That's kind of what the Saddle Dome is at this point.
It's become, yeah. All right. Well, they're getting a new one,
fancy one,
in about a year and a half, across the street, basically in the but fun city, by the way, folks. If you haven't been to Calgary, highly recommend it. Edmonton, not going to go there.
Yeah, you can
go in and out
west from Calgary.
Yeah, keep going. Let's take a moment and recognize two more of our sponsors are here. Sunset Lake CBD, Razor. So last night, as you know, actually, I feel really good this morning. I've been struggling last night a little bit. All of a sudden, late afternoon, I don't know if it was the rain, whatever. I don't know. Who the hell knows? Start sneezing my ass off. Anyways, I need to get some good rest. I took the tincture and I took 2 vials of it. This is the sleep one. Razor, 8+ hours. I haven't done that in forever. That's why when I finally got up, I'm like, oh shit, it's like I need to tell Razor what time we're going to do the show at. Go check out sunsetlakecbd.com/morning brew. Use the code BRU20. You get 20% off site wide. It's for me, it works. And they've got vibe gummies and they got relax gummies and they got sleep gummies. But I'm finding more and more the tincture, it gets absorbed quicker. And so I use that even more. And by the way, Cooper had a little bit of his dog CBD stuff on the ferry home. Victoria said he was phenomenal. It's like he's a new dog now. Just a teeny tiny bit. He just relaxes him. So go check it out.
And on top of it, the people are amazing. Revs and the care package we got for the holidays.
How nice was that?
Oh, the honey, and it was amazing. So those guys are the best.
They got the honey, and they also sent in some maple syrup, which is like,
it's like bourbon maple syrup. Oof.
Yeah, I know. It's going to have to be a party soon. Speaking of a party, it's always a fun time at Copeland Automotive Group. You can count on Copeland, just like Razor has counted on Copeland for his last 3 cars. And you had the little car last night. We were concerned coming out that it could be icy and stuff. It was fine, right? But
yeah, shout out to the workers, the hard workers, our friends at the city getting the salt on the road. It was dry. It was perfect last night. Like I was shocked. So
it was nice.
The Prius from Toyota Copeland down in Brockton. It was cooking home last night. Believe me.
All right. Well, check out countoncopeland.com for all details, new and used cars. They've got 5 different dealerships. Razor said it. Toyota dealership, Chevrolet, they got a couple, in a Subaru. Go countoncopeland.com. Check it out. And we thank all of our sponsors for all that they do and being here with us with Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. What do you think of the line? Like, you got to stick, I think, with these line combos now. So you had Steve's up with Elias Lindholm, who I feel like I noticed him a lot more the couple of games when he came back from injury. And now I'm not noticing him as much, Razor, and Geeky on the right. And then you had Minton back with Husnudinov and Pastrnak on that right side. And I don't know. David is trying his this and that. You know, I think that line kind of energizes him with the young kids. I feel like he likes that. And then you still have the Zaka line with Middlestat and Arvidsson. I thought they were pretty consistent.
Yeah, I thought they were the best line last night.
Yeah. And then when the fourth line got out there, believe it or not, they weren't bad. Like, they didn't get a lot of ice time, Castella, Corrali, and Acimont. I'll be curious to see if Tanner Jeannot is able to come back or not soon. But can you think of any other line combos that make sense to you heading into the game in Edmonton?
No, I'm with you. I think they keep this one intact. I don't want to see them bounce again after this last game. And again, going off of Sturm's comments, it sounded like he was fairly happy with 5-on-5 play overall, which makes me think that he'll lean this way. I'm trying to think about the only thing is okay, who plays against McDavid? What do they have to adjust? Are the Oilers a team you have to adjust to a little bit more so than Vancouver and Seattle? But in that, on the flip side of it, do they really have a shutdown line they can put together? And they're just are they going to roll a third line against Connor McDavid and try and match lines in Edmonton? That feels like a tough task for this group as well. So I think you keep this the way it is through this road trip. Try and find something, and again, Tanner Jeannot coming back in and putting that fourth line together, that really can solidify that forward group.
That would help. Let's see if he's able to. We have no idea. Jonathan Aspero comes back in after missing a couple of weeks. 15:49 of ice time. He had 2 hits, 1 shot on goal. He did have the penalty at the end that you brought up already, bud. That wasn't intentional, but not obviously brutal timing of it. But overall, very solid, right?
Yeah.
So he's out there with Hampus Lindholm. So you have McAvoy and Zadorov and Hampus and Jonathan. And now you got Low Ryan Peak. That third pair in Edmonton, I'll be interested to see, I guess, who they go with there. What do they put Kolyachonok back in for skating? Do you take out you need to keep the right shot Peak in? You just do. You have
Peak
to
can't come out.
Right. So, I guess, do they consider that? They started, it was interesting. And I don't have Natural Stat Trick open right in front of me. The eye test, especially the first 2 periods, we saw an awful lot of Low Rye, at least it felt like Low Rye and Peak starting in their own zone, which surprised us a bit.
It did. And I can't imagine them doing too much of that in Edmonton, because 97's coming over the boards whenever that happens. I don't know what his numbers are offensive zone faceoffs, but I got to imagine Connor's taken 97% of those offensive zone faceoffs. So you'll see a lot more. Like, that's where you're really going to match on the back end. Yeah, I have to imagine you want McAvoy and Zadorov on the ice every single time 97 is, or is as often as possible. So although Hampus plays 97 really well, he did a good job against them the other week. So you could see some of that as well, where you get a little, McAvoy, Lindholm defensive zone. Like, you're going to see a lot more of the work. You talked about the forwards. You're going to see a lot of work on the back end. And I can't imagine you see a lot of 6 and 26 going over the boards for defensive zone in Edmonton.
No, I'll be interested to see if they make any changes on the back end here. I got one question from a fan. Let's get to it, and then we'll wrap up this show. From John Hughes, because I didn't put this out until literally before 10 minutes.
Because your 8 hours sleep.
Because my 8 hours sleep, which is a rarity for me. Putting aside last night's game, why are coaches, management so concerned with young guys coming up and playing responsive two-way hockey when the team is close to the bottom of the league in team defense as is, and the offense is dried up? I think the question, basically, as I read that, this is coming down to is,
let the young guys do whatever they want.
Bring up young guys into play. And I don't think look, I think they're going to get through this trip. They're going to see what they got. I do think that this is a big moment for this team. I do, through the game in Seattle. And then you have a Providence team that is second best in the American Hockey League with a 7.96 win percentage. Unbelievable season going down in Prov. 21-5-1 right now. I don't know. I don't want to get off tangent here, but did you see by way that Grand Rapids is 26-1-0-1 this year?
Jeez,
They have
Louise.
a 946 win percentage in the American League.
Holy smokes.
Unbelievable.
No, I definitely didn't see that. Stevie Y. What building from the ground up.
I had no idea.
That's crazy.
All right,
Yeah. That should actually be news. That's nuts.
Yeah, it is, but because it's the American League, it isn't. But just looking at the team, and there are some good performances. There's no question about it. But you're seeing, Patrick Brown.
Okay, that's it for me right there. I looked at the stats the other day in Providence. Okay, who's Patrick Brown is the leading scorer by far in Providence right now, right? He's at 28 and Lizel's at 22 was the last time I checked.
Brownie's at 30 now.
Brownie's at 30. Okay. If they bring up Patrick Brown, who is the most deserving, obviously, the captain, the leading scorer, the best face-off guy, they bring him up and everyone goes crazy. Oh, the young guys. Well, no, he's the best player there. So this goes to, again, this is what we're talking about. If Matty Poitras had 35 points, I bet he'd be up here right now.
Right. He has 18 on the season, and Fabian Lizel has 24. So Fabian Lizel has 23 games, 24 points.
He's hanging in there.
He's hanging in. But to sit here and say I've seen him play and to say he's deserved of a call-up, I can't answer that with good with good education, not having him seen play. To John's question, though, I think there would be. I don't think they're going to force it just yet. I think they've got some other guys they want to do some things with, but I think it'll happen sooner. Now, the other thing is we'll see about goaltending. But DiPietro was hurt. He was playing really well, but then he got hurt. They called up another kid that was playing. So we'll have to wait and see there. All right. So the Bruins lose to Calgary. They lost to Buffalo as well. Razor, we've got Edmonton on New Year's Eve. You'll be doing that game. And then you and I will get back together for Saturday Morning Brew on EEI. I think we actually may pre-record that show sometime on the 2nd, because the 3rd I'll be on an airplane getting back here. So we will we'll figure that out, folks. We'll keep you updated on when we're going to do that show. But we will have stuff for EEI Saturday Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks. And by the way, thanks to RC. He's on vacation in the middle of nowhere. He's going to get this out somehow, some way. So we appreciate it. Everybody, listen, we won't talk to you till after New Year's. So have a happy, healthy, safe New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And we look forward to being with you for the 2026 portion of this Boston Bruins season. And enjoy your coffee.